People affected by social and ethical issues, participants, users, and those in the environment. Now, as previously mentioned, information systems have an impact on their environment. Here we will look at the three classifications of people who are impacted by information systems, which are that of participants, users, and those in the environment. The classifications are based on the level of interaction an individual has with the system. So, firstly, we'll look at participants, and they obviously have the most interaction with an information system. Okay, a participant is often referred to as a direct user in relation to an information system as they are integral to the functionality of the system. The participant is considered a part of the information system as essentially they help it conduct the information process through manually entering commands or entering data and assisting in the calculations to make that data process into information. So they are the most involved with an information system. So let's just have a brief look now at some of the issues that will affect this individual of the participant or multiple participants interacting with the system. So they'd be most likely impacted by the system due to their high interactions with the system. That's what we need to keep in mind here. They're the ones interacting with it the most. Okay, the changing nature of work. When the system is updated or changed or a new system is implemented into an organization, they need to be retrained and reskilled. And can that happen? Or are they not able to learn those new skills? Or does the system replace their job? Security. Participants need to be up to date with security protocols that will govern their access to data. All right, so they need to know their login credentials or any other type of things they need to do to gain access to the system. They need to obviously remember their password. They need to re-update it maybe periodically. They need to abide by that kind of stuff, ensure that the data on the system stays safe. The appropriate use of information. Now, they have access to certain data, as we just said with security, but they need to ensure that the quality of information that is on the system, that they use it correctly, which aligns with what they do for their job. Okay, basically, is the data they have access to, is it A, relevant to their job? And B, if it is, are they doing their specific job with that data? If they're just there to, if their job is specifically to analyze data and perform calculations and give it to their employer, that's fine. But if they do those calculations and then give it to a marketing company, well, then that raises an issue, okay, with their appropriate use of information. And then finally, health and safety. Does prolonged use of the system pose a health risk to the participant? All right, things such as occupational overuse syndrome and RSI, these come from people interacting with computing systems and then over time, them developing an injury or a strain. Okay, which then they need to medicate or make it very hard for them to interact with the system going forward and allow them to do their job. All right, there's many health and safety issues that come in any workplace based on the type of work being done. Now we'll move over to the user. And as said, we are all users for systems. Okay, we all use a whole variety of different systems, and they essentially are people who use the system for an intended purpose, which may be to retrieve information, to pay for a service, or to be entertained. Users can be impacted in the following ways. So, firstly, the changing nature at work. Once again, in this case for training, it's not likely a user will be trained in a system left they have to by their workplace. But essentially, it's usually a self-based tutorial. Think about when you download an app, no one trains you how to use that app. You've got to kind of figure it out yourself. Will you be able to train yourself and be able to use that system? Okay, and you've got to think about that, especially if you're the one delivering the new system. Will users be able to understand my system without me being there to explain that to them? Secondly, is the privacy and security of the data that the user enters into the system. Okay, are they able to enter the system with ease? What do they have access to when they enter the system? How private is the data the user is entering into the system and who has access to the data? This has obviously been an issue we've seen on social media where people are uploading photos themselves and writing posts, but it turns out that this data is being shared across platforms and with other companies, which is controversial. Although it is outlined in those social media outlets' terms and conditions that they can do that. But then people didn't read it, did they? And so that's where we have an issue. Essentially, be careful what you put online. All right, but that's things that pertain to the user. Finally, we have those in the environment. Okay, these are individuals who do not interact with the system at all. Okay, but there may be data about them on that information system. And To make it easy, think about government databases where they've got data stored about their citizens for many specific purposes. Okay, you might not interact with it, especially if you're a child under the age of 18. It's more your parents are going to be interacting with the system itself if they're the ones putting in information on that. But there is still data stored about these individuals on the system. So essentially, the big issue here is privacy. How private is that data once again stored on the system, and who has access to it? Okay, so if you are a minor, well, then your parents have access to it, they update and all that. But is this information being shared with any other people? Because you're not really interacting it. Is it valid, the information? Is it actually quality data that is correct? Okay, or is it incorrect and it needs to be updated and verified periodically? And because you're not interacting with the system, how does this happen? So just a lot of questions there that even though you're not interacting with the systems at all, and there's many systems like this in society, there's still data being stored about you on these systems. So I hope this video has given you understanding of the three categories of individuals and their interaction with the system and how social and ethical issues impact on them. That are the participants, users, and those in the environment.